The offertory today is a continuation of what you just heard. It's amazing how God, our relationship with God is being exalted in everything that we do. So let me take a breath because I think I'm nervous or something. Okay. What I want to talk to you about today is that we are exalting God in everything we do. And in the offertory, so what Jesus has done and the reason we exalt him is because of his death on the cross and because of the work that he's done to reconcile us to God. And I say my words seem to be so insufficient to really express what that means for us in eternity. In this process of reconciliation, we are being transformed into the likeness of Christ. And I want to look at John 6, where we talk about the little boy. I keep calling him a little boy. All week I've been calling him a little boy. It doesn't say he's a little boy. The boy who had the 5 fish and the 5 barley loaves, the miracle of Jesus feeding the 5,000. And what we can learn, or I want to encourage us to keep in mind as we give our offering today. So there are 3 aspects that stood out to me in that scripture. You know, it's the scripture where the disciples, it was near the Passover, so it was already near the time when Jesus would give his ultimate sacrifice for us, for mankind. The people were coming, and there were 3 elements of this scenario and this relationship between Jesus and the disciples that we can learn from, and also that reflect an ongoing transition. So there were masses of people following Jesus. First of all, the disciples were out doing their work. So they were coming in. One of the Gospels talks about the disciples coming and relating to Jesus what they have been teaching and what they have been doing. And so they were in the process of doing what we would call sharing the gospel, evangelizing, sharing the good news about Jesus Christ. And it came to a point where they needed to rest. So they went along, masses are following them. And the difference between the disciples' way of looking at these things as opposed to the way Jesus looked at them indicate things that we can learn, something that we can learn. So when the masses were following them, the disciples said, we need to hurry up and get these guys into town because we're running out of time, it's getting late. They need to go buy some food and, the day is done. I'm sure they were tired. Jesus' response was just the opposite. He had compassion. He had also, when you think about what he was about to do, why would he not be overwhelmed with the burden that was on him, that was about to happen? No, he was compassionate on the masses. And I think we as a church, we as his people, are compassionate about the masses. The next part of it was when Jesus said, well, how much? He asked Philip, and I was wondering, why Philip? Why did he ask Philip? And I had to go to the commentary to find out why he was asking Philip. Turns out Philip and Andrew and one of the other disciples were from that area, so they knew about that area. They were familiar with the restaurants. When you go to a conference, you want to tell people, where the restaurants are, where the places to go to get dinner, and where to do things like that, where to get entertainment. So Jesus asked Philip, where can we go to get food for these people? And Philip started thinking about the money that it would cost to feed all these people, And I think we think about, I know that I do, I'm learning as I go through this, so I'm sharing with you things that I'm learning and ways that I'm being transformed. to think about in our ministries, in our potential ministries, the overwhelming cost in more than just money, but also in time and in effort and in resources. And we want to figure out how it can be done and what it's going to look like, and do a strategic plan and know what it's going to look like in 5 years. We don't always get to know that. We don't always get to know every detail. So when Jesus asked, where can we go? It illustrates to us that Jesus is with us. He didn't do like either Bernie or Mike said earlier. He didn't die on the cross and then go into retirement. So he's with us at all times, always with us. He's in us, involved in our ministries, guiding our ministries. And the other piece was when the disciples said, he asked, what do we have? What resources do we have? 5 little bitty fish and 5 little bitty barley loaves. It doesn't say we have 5 big loaves and 5 big fish. And I also wondered about the little boy, however old he was. What was he thinking when they walked up to him and said, give me those fish, give me that bread? Did he say that, or was he willing to offer what he brought? Was he willing to give it? What was his attitude about it? But the most important thing is that nothing that we have, none of our resources are going to be sufficient until we put them in the hands of Christ. None of them are going to be sufficient. Look at what happened with those 3 little bitty fish, those 3 little bitty loaves of bread. I mean, how many times I know I've said it a lot. I only have so much. My apartment is really small. My budget is really tight. My time is really short. Until we put our resources in the hands of Christ, we're not going to get far. They're not going to be of much worth. So I want to encourage us today to think about those things, and certain scriptures were coming to mind about his ways not being our ways, about the Lord is our shepherd, about the offering that we give in generously, and it's shaken together, packed down, and running over. So we can count on him for that. So with that, let's take a breath.